to have a son by Sarah. Well, when he gets very close to in his middle 90s, he's getting a little nervous because it's not happening. And he thinks he's past the point where he can father a child. Well, see, he forgets one thing, the same thing that we all typically forget. We forget that God can do miracles. He can overcome the obstacles that we can't. And so, we remember the story that from that Ishmael is born. But see, that wasn't part of God's plan. And so that creates a lot of heartache and a lot of issues within the family. So these situations seem to occur because we, as human beings, decide to make poor decisions, and those decisions lead to problems. Had Judah stayed within the protective framework of the family, first off, he probably wouldn't have made these kinds of decisions. And then, had he not married a Canaanite, God wouldn't have had to intervene in any case. So human beings trying to manufacture outcomes that suit our situation rather than consult with God and find out what He wants for us to do. And primarily, what does He typically want? He wants us to wait on Him and Him alone. So, but when we go off and start doing our own thing, thinking we're helping God in some instances, what we do is we create greater difficulties, and then what's the typical response? We want God to clean up the mess. He's not a janitor, and if we pay attention to what He tells us in the first place, and if we're patient and understand that He is going to work, everything will work fine. But we can't do that. So Tamar is probably right in one sense, because she feels jilted by Judah's decision to withhold his youngest son, Phalez, from her as a husband. Being a widow, as we said in that culture, puts her in a very precarious position. And there's no inheritance, there's none of the other benefits. But see, even that does not excuse her resorting to deception to protect herself. It's not up to her to do that. God would have taken care of her. See, God has the answer for everything in our lives. And if we only show the patience and ask, He will work in our lives. So, let's go on with our story. Because now, she has his signet ring, his cord, and his staff, as well as the pledge for this goat. And Judah sent the young goat by the hand of his friend the Adullamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand. But he did not find her. Then he asked the men of the place, saying, "Where is the harlot who was openly by the roadside?" And they said, "There was no harlot in this place." Woo! She vanished into thin air. So he returned to Judah and said, "I cannot find her." Also, the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place. Ooh! Think of what now is running through Judah's mind. What in the world was that all about? Because I know, I had relation with this woman. Who was that? Then Judah said, Let her take them for herself, lest we be shamed. For I sent this young goat, and you have not found her. What does that mean? She's to keep his belongings, and he's hoping that he never sees them again, that they never see the light of day. What is Judah doing? He's being dishonest. He's trying to hide sin. And we know that God has a way of making sure that that comes out. So, verse 24. And it came to pass, in other words, once upon a time, about 3 months later, that Judah was told, saying, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. Furthermore, she is with child by harlotry. Ooh, that's probably an interesting piece of information for Judah to hear. And it's not clear that he connected the dots that was the woman that he was dealing with. So Judah says, bring her out and let her be burned. You see, harlotry was punishable by death, by being burnt. So when she was brought out, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, interesting this, by the man to whom these belong, I am with child. And she said, please determine whose these are, the signet ring, cord, and the staff. Think about that. All of a sudden, busted, can't be trusted, it's out in the open. It's on full display for everybody. Because what has he done? He's gone to his righteous state, and he's going to punish this woman for what she's done. It's very interesting. Remember that Tamar is his daughter-in-law. So he has a responsibility for dealing with the situation. And she is rightfully accused of being a harlot, because at this point the identity of the father is not known. And Judah is only too quick to decide that the harshest punishment is what her sin demands, death by burning. It's very interesting how consistent we as human beings be. Have you noticed in your life how quick are people to point out another person's sin, while at the same time being extremely reluctant to admit their own? We have a very, very prime example of that in David. And David's sin was found out. I think another, to look at it on the side of the accusers, I think the perfect example of them is from the book of Job. Job's 3 friends are so quick to say to Job, hey, look, Job, it's obvious. Your problem is that you have unconfessed sin. Just reveal it, and everything will be fine. We'll have plenty of things to talk about, behind your back. Very interesting. That attitude is not one of forgiveness, is it? It's not even close. And it is certainly very far from the place where we're supposed to be loving our brother and helping him repent from what he's done wrong. See, very interesting, at this point, they haven't yet determined who is the man, who is the father. Because also in that culture, it wasn't just the woman that was either stoned or burned. It was the one that was the other active participant. So the man is equally responsible, but they haven't considered that aspect of it yet. It's very much like when the woman was accused of adultery by, the Hebrew leaders, and Jesus kneels down next to her and with his fingers starts writing something in the dirt. We're never told what he wrote, but we did see the reaction, because he started writing in the dirt and these guys started leaving and going away, to the point where there was nobody there, and Jesus turns to the woman and says, "Where are your accusers?" Very interesting. This is the same deal. So instead of exercising some caution, though, Judah wants to make a big show of this. And he doesn't realize that the show is going to involve him. This is a very interesting scenario in my mind. Judah, of all people, should have been exercising great restraint, because what had he done? After his wife died, he'd had this illicit relationship. So instead of leading the lynching party, he should have had some concern for this woman. I was told many, many years ago to remember one thing. Whenever you point the finger at somebody else, there's three pointing back to you. Be very careful when you do that. So, and one of my 60s and 70s favorite songwriters also wrote a song that has some interesting lyrics in it. The guy's name, of course, is Gordon Lightfoot. He's a Canadian folk singer. And the name of the song is "The House You Live In." So, let me read you a few of it. "Be calm in the face of all common disgraces, and know what they're doing it for. And the house you live in will never fall down if you pity the stranger who stands at your door." Goes on, "When you're out on the road and feeling quite lost, consider the burden of fame. And he who is wise will not criticize when other men fail at the game. Beware of strange faces and dark, dingy places. Be careful while bending the law." Very interesting. "And the house you live in will never fall down if you pity the stranger who stands at your door." See, had Judah adhered to that bit of wisdom